Hello, welcome to today's Applied Client Network Coffee Talk. We're excited to be here today and appreciate you joining us. Before we begin, I'd like to remind the audience to please submit questions throughout the coffee talk using the Q&A box on your webinar toolbar. This coffee talk is being recorded and that recording will be made available in the Learning Center for members of Applied Client Network. And with that, I'll pass it over to our moderator, CEO at ACN, Brian Langerman. Brian, please go ahead.
Well, thanks, Quentin, and good morning, ACN. Thanks, everybody, for joining our monthly Coffee Talk series. I have to tell you, I am really super excited about our special guest today for our April ACN Coffee Talk, Vamari Roman. If you're not familiar, Vamari is a hospitality and consumer services leader turned coach and speaker with over 20 years of experience. She's definitely a change agent. She combines her expertise with her passion for empowering leaders. As an expert in career strategies, leadership, and human behavior, she helps professionals find purpose and career satisfaction. In addition, Vamari is a certified leadership and positive intelligence coach, which we're going to explore a little bit more because I wasn't real familiar with some of that terminology either. But she's an expert speaker on mental fitness, professional branding, purpose, and career strategies, as well as career transitions. LinkedIn also recognized her as a LinkedIn career expert, and as a coach, she works virtually with professionals in many different industries. So Vamari, what an impressive bio. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome to our April Coffee Talk.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to be here today. And I just realized I forgot my coffee because I drank it right before this.
That's okay. Well, I'm sure many listening will make up with a second cup this morning.
Yeah.
But awesome. Well, I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and jump right in. And I thought it might be good just to maybe share a little bit more about yourself and some of the work that you do and the work with us.
Absolutely. So when I first started coaching, I was leadership. It was all about leadership because of my background in leadership. And shortly after, I realized that what the clients that were attracted to me were mostly high achievers that were already in mid or senior level careers. And they decided that they wanted to find purpose. And that's how the whole career strategies and purpose came about. And then in 2020, I actually burnt out because as a career strategist and coach that focuses on branding, you could imagine how busy I got with everyone that was furloughed and laid off. And so people were looking to transition like crazy. And I, as a service person, someone who just loves to serve others, just became really busy and forgot about just giving myself that downtime. And then as people were home, really reflecting on trying to reflect on what was going on with COVID, I was just keeping myself busy. So December of 2020, when I decided to take some vacation, I saw that it took me quite a few weeks to just really get my thoughts in order. I had this fog that wouldn't go anywhere. And that's when I got certified as a positive intelligence coach because a coach that's a friend recommended this new program that had just been launched. And so I went through it just to see if it would help me with my own burnout that I experienced. And then in the middle of the program, I just knew I needed to get certified in the work because it was so life-changing. And so much of my work as a coach has been with overcoming limiting beliefs for so many years. And this positive intelligence just accelerates the progress that clients have. It accelerated my progress. And so that's what led to the positive intelligence and the mental fitness. And since then, I've been very passionately speaking at conferences in regards to mental fitness and positive intelligence. Since 2021. And so that's been a huge part of my focus, even though I still very much work on branding and career strategies.
Great. No, thanks for sharing a little bit of that background. I thought let's jump right in, and I thought we could start with maybe personal branding. I know that term has been out there for a while. I think it means a little bit of different things for everybody. And I was wondering if you could just maybe give your perspective a little bit about what exactly is personal branding? We talk a lot about, LinkedIn profiles and career strategy. And, I think we're trying to generate business, many of our members within their agency or brokerage. And if you could just talk a little bit about like, what is personal branding for you and why is it so important?
Absolutely. So personal branding, and I'm gonna also share the term professional branding because it's the same thing. Some use professional branding and then some use personal branding, but it's essentially the same thing. And so it's really about taking hold of your career, of your journey, of what you have to offer, your talents and expertise, and ensuring that others are perceiving your expertise and what you offer the way that you want to show up. Is really branding yourself before others brand you. Oftentimes, what I share with students and people that I'm coaching is that, whether you know it or not, you have a brand. And so that person that's constantly late to meetings, and people say, "Oh, don't worry, he's always late. He'll be here eventually." Well, that's their brand, right? The late person. And so it's about how we show up. It's about how we show up in person, how we treat others. And then, of course, there's now, because we're living in a digital age, there's that digital component.
Okay, great. No, thank you. I thought since you work with so many different clients in different industries as well, are there any, kind of examples or case studies that you can mention about kind of this personal or professional, kind of branding success?
Absolutely. So, a lot of the times what I'm finding is throughout my work as a coach, it's very difficult for individuals to articulate what sets them apart, what they bring to the table. And so, in order to have that brand, it's not about showing off. It's not about, look at me, but it's really about articulating what sets you apart. And so, many times when I'm working with clients, a lot of the times they'll say, well, I'm not sure. Or, when I ask, what are your top strengths? They're like looking at me like, well, should I say this? Should I say that? And after working together, they're able to really articulate how their strengths set them apart, because two people may have the same strength, but we're all going to use our strengths differently. And so oftentimes clients say after working on their brand is like, wow, I feel confident. I feel this sense of confidence that I did not have before. When I work on clients' LinkedIn profiles, they're just like, wow, I'm getting speaking opportunities. I just worked with a person that works in the meetings industry. And her intention with her brand was not to get a new job. She loves where she works. She didn't want to go anywhere, but she wanted to really be respected for what she brought to the table. She was also finishing up her master's degree. And so it was important for her to really have her brand really supplement that investment that she made in her master's degree. And so we worked on her brand, and she's one that said, hey, I'm getting speaking opportunities. People are reaching out to me now that, just from my LinkedIn, and it's just, beautiful. So I can go on and on because it does make a difference for those that are looking for work. Sometimes, they'll come to me and they'll say, hey, I haven't had any hits on my resume or my LinkedIn. And then when I look at their branding, it's because, it's confusing. People don't understand who they help. And actually, I have a funny story. So I am working now with a client who is a marketer, senior level. He's been marketing for, I think it was over 20 years. And he wanted to bring purpose into his work. So he went to work for a nonprofit. And unfortunately, due to finances, they had to eliminate his position. And he's been out of work for about a year. He's had a resume writer work with him. He's had his LinkedIn profile, still out of work. A friend of his, who is a friend in common, we have a friend in common, says, she's the best. Just trust me, she's the best. So we're talking, and I'm going into his profile, and I hadn't looked at his resume yet. And his profile on LinkedIn said he was a marketer, but it did not set him apart at all. I didn't know what his marketing focus was. And so I started to ask him all these questions, and I said, think of your clients. If that if their marketing's not speaking to their niche, it's never going to arrive, right? They're not going to be able to, that marketing or that advertising is never going to arrive. Well, the same thing happens with us. If we're not direct, and we're not articulating our strengths and who our client is, or our focus or niche, then it's not landing. Your branding is not landing. And so he was just like, wow, you're so different and you're so right. He says, because I help people and companies do this, but it's so difficult for me to do it for myself. And so, that just reminded me of the importance. And I let him know most people do not feel comfortable speaking about themselves or articulating their strengths and expertise. And that's why I still have a job or a company, right? But in all seriousness, I think that it's very common, and it's something that I take for granted sometimes because it comes so naturally to me. I've been doing it for so long, but it's still important. It's that, and I guess, it's bringing, when we spoke briefly about what we were going to talk about today, now I'm realizing, yes, the importance of why this is still something that people want to talk about. What is personal branding? How do I get to, to have a brand that sets me apart?
Sure. No, I think so true. Let me ask you, I know you do a lot of work on LinkedIn, and I think if we take a little bit of a road, in past history, I think, LinkedIn originally, I think, had the brand of, it's, if you're looking for a job, you got to be on LinkedIn. And that's really the purpose of LinkedIn. And it's certainly evolved, I believe, so much over the past few years. I know there's a lot of different tips and tricks out there, but I was wondering if you can maybe just share a few with our listeners around if their LinkedIn profile. I assume if they don't have a LinkedIn profile, first step is start your LinkedIn profile. But assuming that everybody listening does, maybe just a handful of tips and tricks to kind of look at and consider in your LinkedIn profile.
Absolutely. So I'm going to give you a little history because I like for people to understand the importance of LinkedIn and why it started, right? So it was actually founded in 2003, but it was in the pandemic that it just blew up. Everybody's just like now, because I think people were home and we were all on digital, right? We were online. But originally, when the founders of LinkedIn started the company, the intent was always for it to be a professional networking site to connect career and business opportunities. So that was always the intent. The intent was also to have a digital resume or a professional profile that people can see. And because one of the tips or ways that you can tell that was their intention is we all have, when you have a profile, you have first-degree connections, second-degree connections, and third-degree connections, right? The reason that those connections are there and they show you that is because LinkedIn wanted you to connect with the people that you know, but then in the networking component, they wanted you to ask your first connections to introduce you to the second connections and the third connections, which is why you see, and now a lot of platforms see you have who you have in common, but LinkedIn had that first. Why? Because they wanted you to connect with people within that network. And the idea was that you don't send a stranger a message, but that you ask one of your first connections to say, hey, Brian, I see that you're connected with Jen, and I want to talk to Jen about XYZ. And so would you mind making an introduction? And that was the whole purpose initially. So it was all about facilitating network and referrals. It still is. And then there's that component where most people were familiar, which is the job search and recruiting component. Recruiters, the reason that it became so popular with the job search and recruiting is because recruiters understood right away what the intent was of LinkedIn. And so for them, LinkedIn made their job so easy because now they can go on a platform without having to do the old-fashioned thing and calling on the phone, right? So today, LinkedIn has, and I had to look it up this morning because these numbers change all the time, but today LinkedIn has 1.2 billion users worldwide. And 50.6% of those members are between the ages of 25 and 34. So the new generation, I would say new because I'm a little bit over 34. That generation understands the importance of the networking. They're a little bit more comfortable with the digital. And so that who's there. But LinkedIn is continuing to increase. They saw a 17.1% increase between January of 2024 and January of 2025 in advertising. And this is not just for jobs. So this is just in general. And so the tips that I can give is, and knowing who we're talking to today is, some of you are, maybe employees, some of you may be business owners. Number one is, if you are a business owner, your business should be on LinkedIn. There should be a business profile. And this is a great way too for your employees to be tied to that business profile. And so that's the one tip for business owners. For individuals, now business owners should also have their individual profiles. And so with your profile is to really optimize your profile with everything that LinkedIn gives you. Why? Because your chances of showing up in searches will be greater. Understand that LinkedIn has an algorithm. And so people are able to search by keywords, and that's how you might be found. And so they can, look up insurance agents near me, and guess what? LinkedIn will give them a whole list. And so if you don't have all of your information on there, if it's not updated, then you will not show up in those searches. What helps with searches is also for you to comment on friends that are posting, and really be engaged on LinkedIn. So it's not, LinkedIn rewards people that are engaged. And so you will not show up on searches if you're not engaged. And engaged doesn't mean that you need to start posting or be a slave to being on LinkedIn. It just means, maybe give it once a week, twice a week. Go like somebody, go to your homepage, see who's posting, comment. I've gotten opportunities by commenting. I teach professional branding for a group called 50/50 Women on Boards, and our goal is to get by 2050, 50% of females on paid corporate boards. And the founder of that organization was the president of a hotel company that I worked for 25, 30 years ago. And suddenly she posted some stats. I happened to comment on the stats. And next thing you know, she saw me there. So a day or two later, she sent me a DM, a direct message saying, "Hey, Vamari, I saw your profile. I see what you're doing now. I'd love to talk to you." That conversation led to where I'm facilitating the professional branding, the personal branding workshop once a year for them. And so opportunities come. And again, it's not always about changing jobs. It's about networking and those opportunities coming. So how do you optimize your LinkedIn? And I know I'm going long-winded, but I want to be able to give you some tips. So number one is have an updated headshot. Your headshot should be from shoulders to your head, right? Clear. Nowadays, you don't need a professional headshot. Our phones take excellent photos. So just make sure it has a clear background. Look at the camera. Smile if you smile. If you don't smile, be serious. Be yourself in the photo. The reason I say look at the camera is because we connect through our eyes. That's networking, right? And so the same thing goes when your profile is on LinkedIn. I'm going to back up a little bit. Your profile should never be private because that's not the purpose of LinkedIn. You should always have a public profile. Number one, people are Googling you if they're looking to do business with you or if you're looking for a new job. And so you want your LinkedIn profile to show up. You want to be in control of what shows up online for you. And so have your profile be public. Your picture must show because people do not connect with people that do not have their picture showing. The underneath your name on LinkedIn, that's prime real estate, and you can edit that section. Most people don't know that. So what happens is when you have your profile, LinkedIn will automatically put your title underneath your name. That's prime real estate. That's the first thing people see. So there you want to edit that, and you want to say, I help XYZ, or something that sets you apart, that tells people what you do and how you do it and what sets you apart. The cover photo, use a cover photo. Those, you can play around with those. You can put your contact information there. As long as it's a high resolution and it's part of who you are, in one way or another, just ensure that that banner is being used. A lot of people don't use it. And then it's a digital resume, but it's not to have everything on there, because you want people to be able to, if you are looking for work, you want people to call you or contact you asking for your resume so that they can learn some more about you. And so do have 1 or 2 accomplishments, quantified accomplishments underneath your experience. Utilize the skills option. Endorse others people's skills so that they can endorse you. Pin your top skills, because LinkedIn allows you to pin 2 skills. So you want to pin your top skills, something that sets you apart, your expertise. And then ask for endorsements. I actually just did a little project where I'm working with someone who's going to help me get leads through LinkedIn. And one of the things where they wanted me to get to my skills section, they wanted 99 endorsements. So my assistant and I started sending direct messages to people. First, we were endorsing my connections, and then we were asking, hey, I just endorsed your skills. Would you mind endorsing me? That was amazing, because I connected with so many people that I hadn't talked to in so long. The other thing that you want to do is, on top of endorsements of skills, you also have recommendations. This is excellent for businesses, for anybody. Ask your clients, your friends, your colleagues to write a recommendation about you. People read those recommendations. If you have maybe 5 or 10 recommendations, you'll see that there's a trend of how people are describing you. That's your brand. And you have the opportunity to approve this before it goes live. You can ask for an edit, but I don't recommend that you write your recommendation for the person, because people don't really edit. So have them write in their own words something that sets you apart, or whatever, however they want to recommend you. People read those, utilize that. And then lastly is your about section. LinkedIn gives you 2,000 characters there. They give you 2,000 characters because they know that they are read. They know it's useful. And so utilize that. I would say 9 out of 10 profiles I look at do not use the about. And if they do, they might have something that sounds like a bio. Your LinkedIn needs to be in the first person. Remember that you're connecting. This is networking. So this is not, Brian is this professional that it's amazing. No, it's I help, and this is my background. Help bring your storytelling in, right? How did you arrive to where you are? What sets you apart? Because if someone gets your resume, they want to go to LinkedIn to learn more about you. If they land on your LinkedIn, they want to learn more about you. So that was a whole lot, but hopefully you're walking away with some tips.
Yeah, no, that was great. Thanks so much for diving deep on some of those tips and tricks on LinkedIn. Very, very helpful. I know we have about 5 minutes left. Let me just kind of shift gears a little bit. As I mentioned in the opening, Bamar, you are a certified positive intelligence coach and leadership coach. And I'm wondering how kind of that ties into personal branding and career strategy.
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, I was doing a lot of work with limiting beliefs. What are limiting beliefs? Self-doubt, imposter syndrome. All of those come from saboteurs. We call them saboteurs in positive intelligence. It's how we self-sabotage. So we have a great assessment that you can take with positive intelligence. It's free. If you go to the positiveintelligence.com website, just look for the assessment and you can take it. It'll list 9 saboteurs. We all have them. And usually these saboteurs they came into our lives when we were children to protect us from real or imagined threats. And as adults, we continue to bring them on. And so what happens is that these saboteurs are basically the voices in our head that tell us we're not enough, we don't have what it takes, all that self-doubt and imposter syndrome comes in with those saboteurs. Now, the saboteurs, when it comes to branding, they come into play because they say, oh, that's not, no, you don't want to put that out there. Oh, people are going to think this. People are going to judge you in this way. And so those voices prevent us from really putting ourselves out there the way that we should put ourselves out there with our talents and our expertise. Again, this is not about bragging. This is about being of service to others, right? Being able to serve others with the talents that we have, with the business that we have, with the services that we have. And so the saboteurs prevent us from moving forward. And so I do recommend that every single person that is listening to this now, live or later, take that assessment. You will get 3 emails from the founder of the work, Shirzad Chamine. He's a Stanford professor. The work is all science-based. It covers 4 areas of science. And what I recommend is that you take it. He's going to email you 3 times. And that's it, no spam. And so those emails are going to teach you a little bit about the work so you can understand it a little bit better. You can understand your results. And then my tip is to focus on the top 3 saboteurs, because one of those saboteurs is the one that is causing you your self-doubt, your anxiety, your stress. And then once we start to work on one of our saboteurs, that's where the mental fitness comes in. And, we don't have time, unfortunately, to go over mental fitness tips and what are those exercises that you do. And so, but if I'm happy to connect with anybody. I do free consultations on my website. You could just sign up and I'm happy to go further into the work if anybody's interested. It's amazing. It's life-changing. And there is a boot camp that you can take that will actually rewire your brain from saboteur to the sage.
Excellent. All right. Well, I know we're just about at the bottom of the hour. I thought maybe just to kind of wrap up, for our listeners today, maybe 1 or 2 kind of closing tips or things to kind of start doing tomorrow.
Woo, okay. So tomorrow or today, make sure that your LinkedIn profile is optimized, right? That all the tips that I shared are done. Ask for recommendations, right? And then make sure that your picture is great. So do everything that you can do that really quickly and grow your network there, right? And maybe I challenge you to connect with 1 new person and just, have a conversation around how can I serve you? How can you serve me? What else can you do tomorrow is implement positive intelligence and mental fitness once you get that saboteur assessment, because it will improve your well-being, your performance, and your relationships.
Awesome. Well, great tips. Well, we are at the bottom of the hour. 30 minutes went by super fast. Again, I want to thank you a ton, Vimaria, for joining us for our ACN Coffee Talk. Thanks to all of our members for listening. I am going to put in the chat right now Vimaria's website. So beproductivecoaching.com. So certainly encourage you to check out her website and follow up and maybe connect with Vimaria as well. And then also did put in the chat the assessment that Vimaria had talked about as well. So with that, again, thanks for joining our April Coffee Talk. Be on the lookout for our May Coffee Talk. We're going to have another special guest. And until then, I look forward to seeing everyone soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.